This is not the first time the world has watched silently while atrocities unfold in plain sight. During the Second World War, thousands of Jewish people were rounded up and sent to concentration camps by the Nazis. The rail lines ran near the Vatican. The smell of death traveled with the wind. The evidence was not hidden. People knew. Leaders knew. The church knew. Yet they did nothing. Silence echoed louder than bombs, and the world's indifference became a second act of violence. We like to believe that we are different now. We point to progress, to globalization, to the internet. We assume that connectivity means accountability, that cameras and tweets and posts will stop the unspeakable from happening again. But we are wrong. Today, the victims are no longer the Jews of 1940s Europe. Today, it is transgender and non-binary people who are being erased, systematically, efficiently, and publicly. The mechanisms are different. The language has evolved. But the intent remains the same: eliminate those who disrupt the illusion of order. In some countries, this erasure takes the form of laws that strip away basic rights. In others, it manifests as state-sanctioned violence, imprisonment without trial, and campaigns of public humiliation. The result is always the same: lives destroyed, identities denied, futures stolen. We live in a world where Israel bombs Palestine, often targeting densely populated areas. Schools, hospitals, and entire neighborhoods become statistics in a spreadsheet of national defense. And people scroll past it. They shake their heads, maybe share a post, and move on. The global reaction is muted, not because the truth is unclear, but because complicity is easier than confrontation. Moral fatigue has become a tool of authoritarian regimes. Meanwhile, in the United States, the so-called beacon of democracy, we are witnessing a new descent. It's 2025. The president is sending people, real people, to a concentration camp in El Salvador. Not prisoners of war. Not terrorists. Just people. People targeted by vague laws and executive orders. People detained without due process. People whose only crime is existing outside the categories preferred by those in power. And once again, the world watches in silence. Let's not pretend this is a partisan issue. It's not. Democrats and Republicans both participate in this system. Their core ideologies, in practice, are more aligned than people want to admit. The difference lies in the packaging. Republicans are blunt instruments. They announce their plans, bark their slogans, and wear their cruelty like a badge of honor. They intimidate openly, unapologetically. Their message is clear: we will crush you, and we won't pretend otherwise. Democrats, by contrast, are masters of appearances. They speak the language of empathy. They host panels and give speeches about inclusion. But when it matters, when people are in danger, when the state is acting without legal oversight, they hesitate. They disappear behind procedural language. They vote cautiously. They prioritize optics over action. And when they do act, it's often in ways that are just as harmful, just better hidden. This duplicity is not new. For decades, Democrats have built their brand on being the gentler face of empire. They smile while deporting immigrants. They nod gravely while voting to fund wars. They post rainbow flags during Pride Month, even as they support surveillance bills that target queer activists. They praise diversity while staying silent about policies that criminalize gender nonconformity. They know how to say the right things. But when the system turns violent, as it inevitably does, they quietly adjust their positions and call it pragmatism. Transgender and non-binary people are caught in this machinery. We are debated like ideas, not recognized as people. Our existence is treated as a matter of opinion. Our rights are contingent. Our pain is political capital used to win elections, sell ads, and boost engagement. Every new law against us is framed as a conversation, not a crisis. Every violent death is treated as an anomaly, not the predictable outcome of social neglect. This erasure is not abstract. It happens in hospitals where trans people are denied care, in schools where gender-diverse children are forced to hide, in homes where family rejection can mean homelessness, in courtrooms where judges strip away custody, autonomy, or safety. It happens in prisons, where trans women are thrown into male facilities. It happens in the media, where transphobia is disguised as free speech. It happens in the workplace, in shelters, in sports, and in public bathrooms. And it happens in policy, disguised as neutrality, clothed in bureaucracy, and shielded by silence. We are not at the edge of crisis. We are inside it. And we need to name it for what it is: an organized campaign of dehumanization, happening across borders and with the passive consent of the global public. People say, "It's not the same as the Holocaust." No, it's not. But the logic behind it is familiar. Marginalized people are labeled as threats. The state uses that label to justify repression. Society rationalizes it as unfortunate but necessary. And then, one by one, people disappear. The concentration camp in El Salvador is not an isolated development. It is the natural evolution of a political culture that values order over justice. It is what happens when people convince themselves that cruelty is acceptable if it is hidden from view. It is the end result of a decades-long erosion of civil liberties, accelerated by fear, justified by lies, and executed with bipartisan support. We are told this is about crime, or migration, or stability, but it's not. It's about control. It's about erasing those who challenge the norms. It's about constructing a narrative where only some lives are worth defending. And in that narrative, transgender and non-binary people are expendable. The internet was supposed to change this. It was supposed to democratize information, amplify voices, and expose injustice. But in reality, it has created a new kind of silence, one built not on ignorance, but on overload. There is too much to process, too many causes, too many stories, and so people disconnect. They choose apathy. They convince themselves that outrage is enough. But it isn't. Outrage without action is just another form of compliance. What's happening now, today in 2025, is not a mystery. It is not a misunderstanding. It is not a political disagreement. It is a human rights emergency. And history will record what we did with this knowledge. Whether we acted, whether we resisted, whether we spoke out, or whether we, too, looked away. The question is not whether we are like the people who lived near the Vatican during the Holocaust. The question is whether we are willing to be different. And if we are not, if we continue to rationalize, to minimize, to avoid, then we are not just witnesses. We are accomplices.